In this lesson, we will open a GeoProject in GeoNetWeaver, build a documentation, and then take a quick tour of the documentation. The documentation we will create is HTML-based, which means it can be used pretty much anywhere, including being posted as a website. The documentation utility works just the same for NetWeaver Developer, except then you just don't get those pretty maps. So let's open a GeoProject. The GeoProject is now open. Before we generate the documentation, we should check to make sure the map and legends are the sizes we want them to be, and also to make sure we have the lights turned on that we want. The sizes look good, not too big, not too small, and the current map is set up the way we want all maps to look. We start the documenting process by selecting Document GeoProject from the GeoProject menu. We need to select a folder to put the files into. It's generally best to use an empty folder. I'm going to create a folder called Docs, in the folder that contains our GeoProject. Yes, go ahead and create the folder. And here we go. Okay, now all the HTML files have been created and two things are happening. The first, as you can see here, a CHM file, that is a compiled Microsoft help file, is compiling. This compiled help file is the whole set of documentation built in a single file. This file is handy if you want to distribute the documentation. And here is the completed help file. The second thing that is happening is the documentation being launched into a browser. So here we have the main page of the document. It summarizes the contents of the knowledge base and provides hyperlinks to other pages for each topics. The main page is organized into 7 sections. The first section is the document section. This section lists all the knowledge base level documents. If we click on one of the documents, it opens as a PDF. Let's zoom in so you can see it. For each of these documents in the knowledge base, the PDF file and an equivalent MS Word file is in the documentation folder in case you want to use them on their own. The next section on the main page is the dependency outline. This is a live outline. You can browse the outline by clicking. The next section is groups. It's a list of all the dependency network groups in the knowledge base. Next is dependency networks. It's a list of all the dependency networks in the knowledge base. And then the calculation section. Calculations are equations built as dependency networks. Next is data. It's a list of all the data links in the knowledge base. And the final section are the constants. Here we have a list of all the mnemonic constants and their assigned values. Now let's look at one of the dependency network pages. We'll click on the topic Overall Assessment. Now we have the Overall Assessment page open. As you can see, there's a map, legend, and basic statistics. Below the map is the dependency network for the topic. The dependency network is clickable. If we click on it, it will take us to the topics page. And let's turn to Overall Assessment. Under the dependency network is the results section. This is a table of results for the topic. One row for each record, a database, or a shapefile. The table has 5 columns. The ID is identification. In this case, it's a unique number assigned to each feature in the shapefile. The results column is a graphical representation of the topic's value and how well its data needs have been met. The value of the topic is represented by the slider's position, left and right, and the data needs are represented by fading the whole image to white with decreasing data. In other words, if all data needs are met, then the image is nice and bright, and if no data needs are met, then the image is practically invisible. This column holds the topic's values, and the final column contains the data needs that are met. 100% would mean the topic has all the data it needs, and 0% mean that all of the data is missing. The table is sortable on any of its columns by clicking the little up-down arrows in the column header. The first click sorts in ascending order, the second click sorts in descending order. Let's return the sort order to its original. On the table of results are two outlines. The top outline shows the hierarchy of the dependent topics of the current topic. In other words, it shows the relationships of all the other topics that this topic can have an effect upon. In NetWeaver, we often refer to this direction as up. The other outline shows the hierarchy in the opposite direction. It illustrates the hierarchical relationships to all the topics that can affect it. We often refer to these other topics as antecedents of the topic. At the bottom of each page is a link back to the main page. Let's look at a typical data page. At the top of the page is the topic's database connection section. It describes where this topic gets its data. In this case, it gets its data from the WCA Access database, the Attila landscape table, and the AGT-SL5 field in the Attila landscape table. The next section describes any arguments that are used with this topic. In this case, there is only one argument, and it is a fuzzy argument named ag-on-slope. You can see the fuzzy curve with inflection points at 0 and 10 on the x-axis. If we scroll over, we see the coordinates that are used to define the fuzzy curve. In this case, we are using two mnemonic constants for the x values, ag-on-slope ideal and ag-on-slope fail. They have been assigned the values 0 and 10 respectively. A full list of all constants used in the knowledge base can be seen at the bottom of the main page. The y values of 1 and -1 are the values that NetWeaver uses for true and false respectively. Let's scroll back. Under the arguments is a table of values for the topic. It is the same sort of sortable table that we saw for the dependency networks. Under the data table is a single outline showing the hierarchy of the dependent topics of the current topic. There is no outline for antecedents because data are always at the bottom of the hierarchy. And back to the main page. That's it for this lesson. Thank you.